We are recording. So hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to meet author Christina June.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, my name is Hallie, and I am the Youth Services Coordinator for the library. I'll be with you guys helping ask your questions to Christina and so on and so forth. But before we get started, I just want to note, if you are here because you're trying to get credit for an activity for the summer reading adventure in Beanstack, I am going to send you the little event code via the email that you used, that you got the Zoom link through right after this event. So once you have the code, you can just pop that into Beanstack and you'll get credit for attending. If you have not already signed up for the summer reading adventure, no worries at all. There is still time to do that, and you can do that. I'll send you the link to Beanstack in that email as well if you're interested. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Christina.
Yay! Thanks everybody for joining me. I'm so excited, and thanks Hallie and Fairfax Library for inviting me. This is super fun, and I will just say this is my first event in a really long time. So I'm excited to be joining you. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how to be an author. It's sometimes I call it like authoring 101, like insider secrets, the stuff that I didn't know when I started. And so please feel free to ask questions at the end. Lots of questions. There's no small question. There's no silly question. And there's a couple of activities, just really quick things. And so if you don't have to write anything down, you can just think about it in your head when we do them. So I'm going to share my screen here in a sec. Let's see this one. All right, can we see it?
We can see you.
All right, I'm going to make the people go away here. All right. So again, this is how to be an author, and I will say that this is based on my experience and the experience of others who I know, and it is also traditional publishing. So that means when you work with a publishing house with the goal, my goal was to have a book in the bookstore and in the library where I could go visit it. So there's another route to publishing books called self-publishing, which is a totally different process. And I will admit that I don't know a whole lot about it, other than there's a lot more responsibility put on the author to get stuff done. So this was just kind of my journey and things that I have observed. So, all right, so who am I? I write fiction for kids and teens when I'm not writing recommendation letters during my day job as a high school counselor. So I really never left high school. I love those little moments in life that help someone discover who they're meant to become, whether it's my students or my characters. I love coming of age stories. I love that moment where you start to figure out who you're supposed to be, or maybe who you think you might want to be. Just those, and whether it's a teeny thing or a big thing, and it doesn't have to be like what you want to be for the rest of your life, but like a path that you might want to go down. So I love to read. I love to travel. I especially love Disney World. We're going next month. I'm very excited. And my dream is to be bi-coastal, live on the East Coast of the US and the East Coast of Scotland. So I live in Virginia with my husband and my daughter, who is just about to turn 11. So this is my professional bio. So this is what you see on the back of books. This is what you see on my website. And most authors have something professional like this that's written in the third person, as well as some professional photos that go on all promotional material or on the back of books as well. So, okay, so my books. My very first book came out in 2017, and it's called It Started With Goodbye. It is available at the library. All of these are. And so kind of my brand for my YA books is fairy tale inspired companions, which means all three of these books have some of the same characters. You don't have to read them in order, but people like to. And most of my main characters have secrets, and they're just kind of figuring their way around the world. So It Started With Goodbye is based on Cinderella, very loosely. All of them are very loosely. And it's about a girl who finds herself on house arrest for the summer, and she starts a secret graphic design business, which leads to some emails with a client. And there's a lot of music and family stuff and an evil stepsister. And it was really, really fun to write. My second book came out the next year. It's called Everywhere You Want to Be. That's about the evil stepsister. And it is based on Little Red Riding Hood, and she happens to be a dancer, and she goes to New York for the summer, and it's sort of her figuring out what she wants to do with her life. Does she want to dance? Does she want to go to college? And also how to be a good friend. And then in 2019, another character who was featured in both of these books became the main character for No Place Like Here. And this is set at not quite a summer camp, almost like a summer camp for adults. Like a retreat center where people do ropes courses and jump over walls and take tests about themselves. And so it's based on Hansel and Gretel, and it's kind of, there's some like mental health stuff going on in that one. And adults, all of my books have adults behaving badly. So anyway, so they're all super fun. They were fun to write, and if you were to read them and look for the fairy tale pieces, you would certainly see them, and if not, that's okay too. A lot of people are like, what, that's a retelling? And I said yes, but if you don't see it that way, that's fine too. Okay, so these are just the steps of how a book becomes a book. I'm going to go through them all one by one. And if you have questions, please feel free to jot them down, or I don't know, Hallie, is it appropriate to put them in the chat? Can you see them if someone has a question?
Absolutely. They can use the chat, or they can also
right.
unmute themselves if they're feeling.
Oh yeah, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first thing, this is the one that probably everybody knows, right? The author writes the story. And imagine if any of you are writers too, you probably are familiar with this process. So this is me sitting in a Panera, which is where a lot of my books were written, with Lisa Maxwell, the author of The Last Magician, also available at the library. And she's wonderful, and it's nice to have writing friends who are doing it at the same time. A lot of my books were written during National Novel Writing Month, which takes place every November, and your goal is to write 50,000 words, or if you're part of the Young Writers Program, I believe you can set your own word count, but a lot of teachers do it. A lot of events happen at the library or community centers and things. So I've done it every November since 2012. And have finished 50,000 words every time. So I'm very competitive. It's good for drafting. But that's my little calendar that I like to fill out during the month of November, so I know how many words I get. But everybody's process is different. Some people write every day, some people don't. I have a friend who literally writes only on the weekends, and she will write out 10,000 words in an entire weekend, and then she might not write again for a month. So everybody is different, and there's no right way to do it. But you just have to get some words on the page. That's really the important part. Okay, so a lot of times you might think that writing is a solitary thing, like you do it by yourself, when in fact, it is not. And yes, you can write a story by yourself, and certainly you could publish it completely by yourself, but our words are made better by other people. And so I have a lovely network of critique partners. So people who I will say, hey, would you like to read this and tell me what you think? And they'll say, of course. And so you can kind of see, here's a snippet of, this is a bit from No Place Like Here. And you can see that there are some highlighted places, and my critique partner, Katie Locke, has left some comments here. And so I use my critique partner's comments to go back and edit. And so this is very similar to if you turn something in at school and your teacher, fills out a rubric for it, or they write comments, or they maybe if you turned it in online and they send you some comments on Google Classroom, or, whatever platform they're using. The goal is to make it better and to point out the things that you can't see because you love it so much. And sometimes critique is hard to hear when something you love didn't work. But ultimately, these are people that you love and trust, and you want them to help you make it better. So these are some pictures of the people that I love and trust, and also I do the same for them. It's reciprocal. So I will read their stuff and give good feedback as well. Okay, so we're gonna do a little break. We're going to think about characterization. And so basically that means, how do you come up with a character? And so you have to make sure that your characters are real, whether you're talking about a human being who's just like you, or you're writing about an alien, or you're writing about an animal, or some type of other fantastical character. How you have to make sure that they are realistic, or that they are multifaceted, and they have strengths and weaknesses and preferences and things that they love and things that they hate and all that good stuff. So we're going to think about a classic character from a fairy tale, from a myth, a legend, a novel, a poem. So get that character in your mind. Who do you want to think about? And I want you to imagine them as a young adult or someone your age in the modern world. What do they like to do? What do they like to eat? What do they like to wear? And so here are some suggestions. Think about one of these things down here. You could do top 3 songs on your character's current playlist. Top 3 shows to binge watch, because I know it's summer and we're all probably thinking about that. Do they have a favorite restaurant and something that they like to order there? What clubs and activities would they do? Or where would they like to go on vacation? So let's think for just a few minutes. And then if somebody wants to share theirs, please feel free to come on mic, or if you don't want to talk, you can put it in the chat, and Hallie will help me out with that. So, and then I'm going to share some of mine too. So I hope that you will share. So let's do that for just a few minutes. All right, I'm impatient. I want to know what you're thinking about. Does anybody want to share?
Can I share?
Of course you can.
So, my character is Scout from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Good choice.
Thank you. And I think that she'd probably participate in football because she likes to run.
Yes. 100%. I love it. Excellent. Anything else about Scout?
I think maybe her dream vacation spot would be maybe camping.
I think you're totally right. That's really good. And so you probably thought about the things that Scout did in the novel and the things that she had preferences for in her time. And then you came up with those things, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly what we do with retellings. Even if we build a whole new world, if you had Scout in space, I'm sure maybe she's playing the space version of football that, deals with anti-gravity and that type of thing. So space camping. So you have to think about those things as well. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Would anybody else like to share theirs?
The Costello family chose Harry Potter, they put in the chat. I'm not sure if they want to tell us more about what they thought about Harry Potter.
Sure, we will. We were having a debate in our house because they said Harry Potter, and then they said, well, we don't know any of these, what his favorite song or his favorite restaurant would be. And I said, but that's not the point. The point is you're trying to choose it. You don't know it. So
exactly.
My boys were a little bit confused on it. So maybe you could speak to that.
Pancakes.
Harry Potter would like pancakes. I think that's awesome. And so, so if you think about this stuff, so in the Harry Potter books, they do talk a lot about the food that they eat. And so if you imagined Harry living at your house right now, would Harry like to eat pancakes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And if Harry was watching TV with you right now, what would he like to watch?
I don't know. Harry Potter, his own movie.
He'd like to watch himself.
Yeah.
He might. Would he know it was himself?
Maybe.
Maybe. Excellent. All right.
What
Well, that's Go ahead.
Say it again.
Or potatoes.
Potatoes. Perfect. Very versatile. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Would anybody else like to share theirs? Well, there'll be more time to share. I think that what we've seen is that this is hard. And it's hard to put yourself in the shoes of a character that you know, or someone that is very beloved, because we get stuck in, Cinderella has to live in a castle and Cinderella has to wear a glass slipper to go to a very particular ball. And so if you're putting those characters, if you're changing up that very beloved story, not only is it hard for you as the writer, but it's also difficult for the reader sometimes. Like, I think that people who write retellings often get a lot of feedback. Well, that's not what they would do. Or, no, I didn't like if you changed the genders of characters, for example. That happens a lot in retellings. And sometimes it takes a little bit of suspending your disbelief if that is a story that you grew up with and you love so much, to put yourself in the new version of it. So all right, so here are some of mine. It Started with Goodbye, which is Cinderella, my main character Tatum, she really likes to go to Good Stuff Eatery. So Tatum is basically Cinderella, but she likes to go to Good Stuff Eatery, which you all can actually go to. It's real. There's one on Capitol Hill in DC, and there's one in Crystal City, and there's one in Chicago. And at any rate, the thing that I love, and so of course that means Tatum loves it too, is the toasted marshmallow milkshake, which is a real thing and it is delicious and you should all go try it. But there are marshmallows featured in the book. I won't spoil it for you, but it's an important little piece. So she likes toasted marshmallow milkshakes. In Everywhere You Want to Be, which is Red Riding Hood, Tilly is our Red Riding Hood character, and she is very much a dancer, and she is also a baker, and she bakes when she's stressed. So she really likes to watch the Great British Baking Show. She likes to watch Friends because her friends' parents introduced them to it. And then, of course, she likes to watch Dance Academy because she likes to watch the drama between dancers on the screen. She does not want to experience it in real life. And then in No Place Like Here, my main character is Ashlynn. She's kind of a mashup of Hansel and Gretel because it's just her. But the top 3 songs on her playlist are The Gold by Manchester Orchestra, Holes by Alice Merton, and Miracle by Ghost Beach. And those are all songs where someone is kind of asserting themselves and using their voice and talking about shaking things up in their life. And that's kind of what her story is about. So again, like, we just have to think about, if you're going to put a character that is beloved in the modern world, you got to think about these little things to get into their head so that you can figure out what they're going to do in the story. Questions, concerns? All right, let's move on. Okay, so you have written a book. You have made it beautiful and shiny with your critique partners, and you think that it is the best version of the book ever, and you're ready to put it out in the world and get someone to try and publish it for you. You have to get what's called an agent. Does anybody know what an agent is? Have you heard that word before?
Can I take a guess of what it means?
Go for it.
I think an agent is like someone who will give your book to publishers.
Yes.
And, see if they'll publish it.
Correct. You are 100%. Thanks, Aspen. So kind of like, you may have heard this in terms of like a sports agent maybe, or a music agent, someone who gets you a contract. And it's their job to look through that legal, like, no one wants me looking at a contract and trying to figure out what it means. So like the legal stuff that's happening with that contract. Oh, went back. Okay. So in order to get an agent, you have to basically beg. And we beg in the form of letter called a query letter. And so query means ask a question. And the question that you're asking is, do you like my book enough to represent it and try and sell it? And so a query letter is basically what's on the back of the book. So it's like a paragraph or two. You introduce your character, your most important characters, and you introduce the problem, but you don't spoil it. And so the goal with that letter is to get the agent to say, okay, you have my attention. I'd like to read more. And sometimes with that letter, you also give them maybe the first chapter or the first 15 pages. And so you really want to make sure that those first few pages are super intriguing with the same goal to have them ask for more. And so if your agent, you send out a whole bunch of these letters. Anybody want to guess how many of these letters? I mean, I won't say average, but I'll just say me. Okay, my first agent, because I've had more than one. How many I might have sent out? Heidi.
Maybe like 100.
Yes, you were right.
Something.
That was a good guess. Yeah, so 100. There's kind of this opinion that floats around on the internet within the publishing world that if you send out 100 queries and you don't get an offer from an agent, then maybe it's time to stop. So 100 is a really big number, and that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of rejection letters, because the truth is that most of those query letters come back with, I'm sorry, no. And that's hard, and you have to have thick skin if you're going to put your words out there. It gets easier, and it can also be very obsessive to copy and paste your letter and copy and paste your pages and send it to people that might not be a good fit for you. Think about if you've ever had a teacher that was okay, but maybe not your favorite, or someone you really didn't get along with. That's kind of what it's like if you have a bad fit for an agent. So, you want to make sure that you have someone that you trust. You want to have someone who has a good working style or teaching style, like a teacher, that matches with you. And if they don't, then it's probably not the right agent for you. So anyway, so you write your letter, you send them out, and you hope and you hope and you hope that someone says, yes, I love it, I would like to represent you. Okay, so great news, you get a letter that says offer of representation. The first one I got, I was sitting at the dinner table and my daughter was 4. And of course I shouldn't have been checking my phone at the table, but I did. And there was the letter that said, I'd like to talk and offer representation. And I screamed, and my daughter started crying because she thought something was wrong. I was like, no, it's okay. I'm okay. So I had an offer, and that agent represented me for a number of years, sold my 3 books. And then afterwards we realized that their business relationship, we had both kind of come to the end of the road. And sometimes that happens. We kind of outgrew each other. She doesn't really represent what I write anymore, because agents can sell whatever they want. They should only sell stuff that they love. And I wanted to go kind of in a different direction. So we parted ways, which happens all the time. Almost every author I know has had multiple agents. And then I worked with someone else for one project, and now I'm represented by for all the rest of my projects for everything else. So querying is a really hard process, and unfortunately it does not stop with getting an agent. But it is an important part of the process, because most publishing houses, as Ashlynn pointed out, will not look at your book if you don't have an agent. Okay, so you get your agent, you're ready to go, you probably revise your book again, and then there is more begging. So your agent basically writes another letter, just like your query letter, except now it's called a pitch letter. I don't know why it has a different name, but it does. And so it's basically your agent now asking publishers to buy the book. It's my current agent used my query letter actually mostly as the pitch letter, which was cool. So that means it was a good query letter. And we're actually doing this right now. I wrote a book last summer, and it's on submission. we're on sub with publishers, and we're just waiting to hear back, and publishing is really slow. This is important. If anybody wants to be a writer, publishing is very slow. And so not only do you get a lot of rejection letters from publishers and from agents, but also you have to wait and wait and wait. And it's a very long time. Does anyone want to guess how long it took to sell my first book? Heidi.
Like maybe like 3 months or something.
3 months would be awesome, but no, longer than that.
What?
Isla.
5.
5. Longer than that.
3 years.
Oh, 3 years. That would be like there. Now that happens, but usually 3 years is probably long because the market will change at that point. Was that you, Heidi, that said that?
No.
No, Chloe, you said that. Okay, Heidi, you have another guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 year.
Almost. Heidi, you're good. Your publishing knowledge is excellent. It was 14 months, so just over a year. And we found a publisher, which means a publisher buys the book. So my books are published with a company called Blink, which is under a much bigger company called HarperCollins, which maybe you've heard of. They publish a lot of books. And when you sell a book, then you get a little announcement like these, where my old agent used to say it was a really long run-on sentence. And so it usually says the author's name, the title of the book, a sentence or two about what that book is about, which editor at which publishing house purchased it, and which agent sold it. And so this is good for all kinds of people to see. So booksellers and librarians can sort of get excited about what's coming down the pike. And so maybe if you can see this top one, it says October 19th, 2015. That was the day that my announcement for my first book came out. That book was not published until May of 2017. So almost 2 years. So it's a really long process as to when you sell it to when the book actually shows up on the shelf. So I'm going to tell you sort of what happens in between. All right, so book is sold, sign a contract. All right, so then you work with an editor. So this is me and Jillian. Jillian edited my first 2 books, and she was lovely, and it was what a wonderful job. She gets to sit and read all day. It's a really great job, and she was a great editor. And so it's her job, kind of like my critique partners, to give me suggestions and tell me how to make the book better. And so we did 3 rounds of editing, and that took 6 weeks. And at that point, the story was done. And then after that, it went to someone called a copy editor who fixed like word choice. So, you know, if I had written in the book, the sky was green, then it would have been her job to catch that. And she'd be like, hey, the sky is not green. Let's make that right. So those little teeny tiny things. I like copy editing because it means you can change your words without changing the whole, the big picture. The big picture is harder for me. But anyway, but you get a whole team of people who are going to help you make your book better. Okay, then everybody always likes to hear about this. An artist designs the cover. How much input do we think authors have in cover design? Anybody have a thought? Ashlynn.
My guess is that they have no say.
You're right. No say at all, which is really sad because I think, you know, that's the thing that sells your book. You know, if you know nothing, you walk into the library and what are you picking? Probably the prettiest cover. You're at least going to look at it and see if you like what's on the back. But yeah, no input. I did get to give some preferences for the first one, and they came back. I don't know if you can see it. Can you all see me? I don't know if you can see it, but down here in the corner are little people under trees. The original design, there were no people. So they added people so that you would think that maybe there might be romance, because obviously if there are 2 people standing under trees, it means there's romance. I thought that was funny. But anyway, yeah, so you have an an artist who designs the cover, and since my first one was so pretty, they hired the same guy to do the other ones. So I thought that was neat. Excellent. All right. So anyway, so yeah, so not a lot of design. And I know people who hate their covers or will go back to their publishing team and say, hey, can we fix this? And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. It just kind of depends. All right, and then copy editors or interior designers will design the inside of the book. And so here are the examples of mine. And so a lot of them really match the outside, which is cool. Or, you know, like they'll put in important things. So if you look at the image that is all the way on the side, you see a pair of sunglasses. There's a pair in the Little Red Riding Hood book, Everywhere You Want to Be, instead of a red cape, Tilly wears a pair of red sunglasses. So the sunglasses appear in the book. So sometimes you get to do cutesy things like that and sometimes not. But you have another, you know, there's a whole other team that is designing the inside. Okay, then the fun part. This is the fun part for me. So that once the book is done, the whole thing is designed and it's ready to go, then your publisher sometimes, less often now, but sometimes will publish what's called an advanced reader copy or a galley. And so you can sort of see in this picture of It Started With Goodbye, where I have the green sweater on, you can see that the spine of the book is black. And so most of the time that's the ARC or ARC. And you can see that that's not what it looks like in the final copy. And that's those copies will go to booksellers, they will go to librarians, they will go to teachers, they will go to professional reviewers, they will go to bloggers, they will go to magazines, they will go to other authors, people who are willing to read the book maybe like 3 to 6 months in advance, and they will either talk about it online, they will write a review and post it somewhere. You can see down at the bottom, it says local author love, that's from Northern Virginia Magazine. And so their editor read my book and put a little thing to promote. Most of these pictures are from professional conferences where booksellers and librarians would come and get to know, these are the books that are coming down the line. So do we want to put them in our library? Do we want to put them in our store and sell them? Because they don't have to do that. So it's really fun to go and talk to people and meet people and make those connections and hopefully have them put your book in their store or in their library. And then part of it also is that if you're a reader, and you guys can look for this too, if there's an author or a book that you're really excited about, a new book coming out, a lot of times publishers will have incentive programs. So if you pre-order it, so you go to your favorite independent bookstore and you say, I would like to buy this book in advance. Can you have a copy ready for me on the day it publishes? And they'll say, of course. You can usually turn your receipt in to a publisher and they might give you something. So a bookmark or a signed book plate, or sometimes a poster. I had posters for No Place Like Here. And so it helps them gauge the interest from readers, and you, the reader, get something cool that comes with your book. So that's kind of awesome. So if there's a book that you know is coming down the pike, it might be worth checking out to see if there's something that you can get. So I see your question, do they get the books for free? Yeah, so ARCs are free, but it's kind of like a unwritten contract. If you take it, then you're going to promote it, or at least read it and consider promoting it. So, and then the ARCs don't have any monetary value, so you can't put them in the library, you can't sell them. The sad thing is sometimes you'll see people who take a lot of copies and then you end up with them up on like eBay. But the thing to know, if you ever encounter one, is that they're not finished copies. And so authors can still do revisions at that point after the ARC comes out. So, you know, I have made changes and so they're not finished. Sometimes they don't have author's notes, they don't have acknowledgements, they don't necessarily have dedications, they don't always have pictures or maps or whatever fun thing might be in the book. Picture books are funny because the arcs of those are usually not stapled, so you have pages flying all over the place. So yeah, we still want you to buy the books. But yes, they are free with the expectation that it will be promoted or at least read with the eye of promoting. So all right, so after that, all right, so marketing. So let's pretend now that we are marketing people. We want to sell a book. So think about maybe a book that you really, really like, or maybe if you have your own work, something that you're working on, how would you pitch that idea to someone who knows nothing about it? You could use a comp, which is a short term for comparative title, that you could use to convince someone they'd also like your story. So like, it's really popular. So we mentioned Harry Potter before. So if your book is a fantasy about a kid at a magical boarding school, but it's not Harry Potter, you could say, if you like Harry Potter, you would also like this. And that's a way that you could pitch that story to someone else. Or sometimes, what's the one line or sentence that will make me want to read it? Or really the last several years, it's been very popular to say, well, my book is this movie meets this fandom. So if I were to say my book is Pokemon meets Captain America, maybe that would be something that people would be interested in. Or like if it had My Hero Academia in it, my daughter would go nuts. So we could say it's Babysitter's Club meets My Hero Academia. I don't even know what that story would look like, but if you like one of those two things, then you might be more likely to pick it up. So can anybody think about how they might pitch something that they like or something that they're working on? I would love to hear a pitch if someone's got something they're working on. How about I'll share the ones that are down here that might be good examples. So it started with Goodbye. Modern Cinderella, when a graphic designer lands on house arrest for the summer for a crime she didn't commit and ends up with some unexpected clients. So I think probably readers might be either attracted to the Cinderella piece. I usually get graphic designer piece or house arrest. So probably one of those things might jump out at a reader who enjoys those things. Everywhere You Want to Be is modern Red Riding Hood. So again, we've got the fairy tale piece. A dancer's journey to New York City for her last chance for a professional job where she fights against sabotage. So my guess is that either Red Riding Hood, Dancer, New York, or Sabotage are going to jump out at you as something. Usually I get Dancer for that one. And then, so then here are two by my friends. In 27 Days by Alison Gervais, a girl makes a deal with death, and like death is an actual person, to go back in time and save a classmate from suicide. So how does she help him? How does she go back in time and save his life? And then The Girl with the Red Balloon by Katherine Locke, who showed up in my critique partner line edits earlier. A girl must get back home from 1980s East Berlin after she's transported there by a magical red balloon. So those are like really easy pitches. Anybody have any ideas or something that they would like to share? That's a little harder than the other one. Pitches for your favorite book or your favorite movie?
Oh, we have one from the chat from the Costellos.
All right,
family.
Costellos.
Yeah, they say, if you like Wings of Fire, you will like my story about fantasy dragons.
Perfect. That's great. That's a good one. Excellent. Anybody else got one? All right. Well, if you think of something as we move on, I would love to hear it. So a couple more things here. Okay, so we have marketed the book, and all of a sudden 2 years later you get to publication day. Sometimes you'll see it online as called like a book birthday. So if you have lots of author friends, then you might be saying happy book birthday a lot of the time. And so tradition, at least for me, is to go visit my book at a bookstore. So there's me at I think that's at a Barnes and Noble on my very first book birthday, and that was very exciting. And then sometimes you get to have a launch party at a bookstore. So my favorite independent bookstore in Northern Virginia is called One More Page. It's in Arlington / kind of on Falls Church, and they're wonderful. They just reopened their doors to people coming back in person. And so we've had a lot of really good times and events there. They're lots of fun. So if you want to like pre-order something, I would strongly recommend doing it through One More Page. They are wonderful. But yeah, it's really exciting to see, and like very surreal to see your book in the out in the real world. I'm just looking at the chat. Chloe, I see you said fans of Spy School will love the book City Spies. Perfect. That's really good. And I think that people who like spies will be gravitating to a title that also has the same word spies in it, because you kind of know at least a little bit of what you might be getting. That's great. Okay, so then after your book publishes and you've got a book that you can say, hey, I wrote this, here it is, you could buy it, you get to do fun things like this and school and library visits, and you get to go interact with readers, and sometimes teachers will use your books in the classroom, and this is really and truly my favorite part. I don't write books for me. I mean, I do, but I write them to share them with readers. And so getting to talk with readers and aspiring writers is really the best part of this job. So there's just sort of some pictures of me and readers with my books and posters that they made. And that's been super, super fun. Fan art, authors love fan art. If you have a book that you love and you want to draw a character, send it to them. You will make their day. All right. And then other things that you get to do once you have a book is you can go do other author events or book festivals, or go to more of those professional conferences that I mentioned before. And you get to talk with your author friends about books, and we talk about the things that we like to write about, and we talk about books that we're excited about, because all of us are just big readers who want to do nothing more but read and write stories. Like, we all love stories. So there's a really excellent festival in this area, and I hope it comes back, called Novatine. We missed it the last couple years, but if assuming it comes back in the spring, then definitely go to that. There's a lot of really good ones. We live in a great area for author events. There's a lot of independent bookstores that host author events and festivals. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And we have a national book festival here too, which is amazing, in DC. And hopefully that one comes back in person as well. Okay, and then there's like all this stuff that I never expected that happened, after my books were published. So Instagram was new when I started. And so seeing pictures of your books online in like cool designs, that's been a new way that marketers have been able to tap into. So, you can see a lot of pretty pictures of my books that were Instagram photos, which I just thought was really cool. Seeing my book in classrooms, being part of book clubs where kids read them and come and discuss, and they ask me questions. That's awesome. My book was in a national magazine. I was in Girls Life, which I thought was really awesome. And then I won an award. It Started With Goodbye won the Young Adult Virginia Award in 2018, which I completely did not expect, and was like totally overwhelmed. And just so wonderful. And that's a great organization too. Actually, they use teen reviewers to review their books. And so I think that might still be open for next year's books. And so if you're interested, that's through the Richmond Public Library. And we are good friends with them. And if you are interested in reviewing the books that will be up for the award next year, definitely look on the Richmond Public Library website. But people, like sending the art and the letters and saying how much they connected with the characters. That's been really like, you think that one person maybe will read it, and maybe my mom will read it and she'll like it, but to know that you make an impact or made somebody happier by something that you wrote. That's really awesome. So yeah, so that's like the good part. And I mean, I mentioned publishing is about waiting, having a thick skin. It's hard. It is, you have to sit in the chair and write the story, which is really hard. But it's awesome. And I'm not quitting anytime soon. Okay, so here's my advice for aspiring authors, because I imagine that all of you maybe have, if you're not writers, maybe you've ever considered it, but here's my best advice. Read a lot, read everything. Read the stuff that you like, read some stuff that you don't like, read from genres that you don't normally pick. Read novels in verse, read poetry, read nonfiction, read biographies, read everything. Because basically what you're doing is studying words the whole time. You're studying what that author did, regardless of genre. And so anything that you read will help you help your words be better. Obviously, practice writing. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more you figure out your process. That's important. Observe the world around you. This is sort of what we did with that first exercise, where you had to put a classic character into the modern world or a different world. You have to observe the people in your life, or people, people watch on the street. That's even fun, to be able to make your characters realistic and make your problems realistic, even if the world isn't. You can set things in space, you can make up your own fantasy world, but you've still got to figure out people's motivations and flaws and strengths. So that's important. Share your work with other aspiring authors. This is really, really hard. It is, it's terrifying, but the more you do it, it gets easier. And so I think that you could probably find other people through the library. You could ask your librarian if there are any writing groups. You could certainly ask your teacher, your school librarian, if there are people that might like to be critique partners, or at least read things out loud with each other, because that's a good way to get started. And then go to author events, listen to authors talk about their work. Like I said, everybody's process is different. So the more when I started out, I did that a lot. I would go and listen to authors talk about how they did things. And some things you file away to try, and some things you say, nope, that's never going to work for me. And that's okay. And then probably my best advice is to finish the thing. I know way too many people who will start 50 stories and never finish any of them. But there's a lot of power in writing the words at the end. And I think that once you do it, then you prove to yourself that you can do it, and that means you can do it again. The first time I did it was just so overwhelming. And then I started something new the very next day. So I would just say finish it. When I was in high school, I think I started a lot. I liked naming my characters way more than writing the story. I still love that. But I think I never finished anything until I was an adult. And sometimes I wonder if that was wasted time, but maybe not, because I was reading a lot and, having a lot of life experience. So anyway, write the end. Don't just go to a page and write the end, but finish your piece. Yeah. All right. I see, Colette, you're 6 and you have a diary and you might like to turn it into a book. I think that's awesome. Diaries are excellent places to begin, because you are learning a lot about yourself, and you're learning I think a lot of times diaries, we are trying to process what's happening in our own lives, or we're just trying to record things, and that's cool too. And so you're doing a lot of observing of your own life, which is very, very helpful in any kind of writing. So that's awesome. I hope that you do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, questions. I will take any questions at all.
We did have some questions come in advance. Maybe we can answer those while people think of
Yeah, that would be great.
their questions. So the first question was, do you have any pets
I
or
do.
siblings?
I do. Okay, well, I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child. I'm weird. I'm the only child of an only child, and I have an only child. And I'm also the only grandchild on both sides. So basically I got all the attention all the time. So that was a lot. Let's see, I'm gonna stop. How do I stop sharing this? Pause share. Stop share. Okay. I do have a pet. I have a puppy. Her name is Winnie Cooper, and she's a Boston Terrier, and I would show her too, except she's asleep. But yeah, she's really cute and lots of fun.
Very nice. And did you always know that you wanted to be an author?
Maybe. I was always a writer, and I've always been a reader. I wrote a lot. Like 4th grade was an excellent year for short stories. But I had a teacher who 1 day a week for language arts, we did nothing but read. And 1 day a week, we did nothing but write. And I think that was really influential for me. I wrote a lot of super bad poetry that no one will ever read when I was in high school. And then I did nothing that wasn't assigned to me until I was 32. And I don't know why that was. Maybe I thought that I couldn't do it, or maybe I thought that I didn't have time. But I think it was always in me, and now I can't get rid of it. So yes.
And then the last question that came in advance was, I think we've talked a little bit about it already, but what is it like being an author?
It's fun and it's hard. And part of the hard part is it's not a stable job. Like working, like my other job, I work in a school, and I know that every day I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to my office and I'm going to do something related to that job, and then I'm going to go home, and then every month they're going to send me a paycheck. Publishing is not like that, at least not the author part. And so I don't really know anybody anymore who writes full time. And so I write to pay for Disney World vacations, which is fine with me. I think there's there's a lot of, it's unpredictable, and your career can change very quickly. So I think you really have to love it, and you have to be in it not for the money. You have to be in it because you love the stories, or you love the readers, or you just can't stop creating. And that's pretty much all of us. So yeah, it's hard, but it's fun.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Christina?
Anything at all?
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite books growing up?
This is an excellent question. I love this. So the earliest book I remember reading by myself was Ramona the Pest. And I love the Ramona books. I loved all the Babysitter's Club books. I still love those. The Netflix show that came out last year, I love so much. Let's see, Judy Blume was my favorite. My favorite book of all time is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. You can kind of see a theme with these, is that I like stories about kids figuring things out about themselves or about their world or their home. And that's still what I gravitate towards. What else did I read? I read a lot of, when I was in middle school, I went through a horror novel phase. I read a lot of Christopher Pike and R.L. Stine, like those Fear Street books. And I don't write that at all. But it's interesting though, because I am now trying to write middle grade, and it's not horror, but definitely like there's paranormal elements. So it's a little different from the fairy tale retellings, but so yeah, I just read everything. Usually contemporary, like that's sort of the thing. Contemporary or like mostly contemporary. That's been most of my stuff. I have a hard time with fantasy, like world building. If it's too complicated, you lose me.
Heidi agrees. Says they like almost all stories. So.
Yes, and that's good. I think you can find merit or something to love pretty much about everything, which is nice. So, all right, Chloe, I see your question. How do you get the motivation to keep on writing a book despite writer's block? This is this is good. So I'll be honest, I don't really get writer's block because most of the time I will write an outline you know, like a lot of times your teachers will have you write outlines for things. And it's like my little roadmap of where I'm going to go. And sometimes I veer off the road, but most of the time I know where the book is going, but I do have time or do have a hard time making myself sit down, butt in the chair, get the words out. And so I think, so Madeline, this is going to address your question about writing routines and rituals. I think I mentioned before, I'm very competitive. And so like National Novel Writing Month is really good for me because there's an end goal and there's something to win at the, I mean, it's really just a digital certificate and sometimes some, you know, discounts on software that I already own, but but I like to win and I like to see I can input my word count every day and see the little ticker go up and up and up. And so that's useful for me. And so I've started using a software that has a built-in word count thing. So the last couple of months, I will set a goal, and usually I set it kind of low, so I know that I'm going to meet it, and then I win every month. So that's something that I do more routine and ritual. Hallie knows this. I just moved into a new house, and so I'm actually, this is the first time I'm sitting in my new office having an event. So I'm getting used to a new space, which means new routines and rituals. But during the school year, I really liked writing literally 15 minutes, the 15 minutes after my daughter left for school and before I had to get the dog up. And that was a very productive 15 minutes, but I would do it every morning. Now I don't have that. No one's going to school. So trying to build a new routine. But I think a lot of authors have routines or like weird things that they do, but that's kind of mine. I need a goal. I need to compete with myself.
All right. Any final questions? We got time for one more if anybody has anything.
Same. Good. I will say this, writer's block. Anytime you're trying to figure something out about a story, I like to make sure that my body is occupied and so that my mind can wander. So like driving, taking a shower, or like taking a walk or working out or exercising of any way, that's been helpful. So okay, what can you tell us about your next book? So here's where publishing is weird, and I don't always get to have a next book or know what's happening. I can tell you what I'm working on. I don't know if it'll be published, but I hope so, because I have a great new agent and she's really excellent at her job. So I am working, I'll tell you about the book that's on sub because that's easier. Has anybody ever been to the Lorton Workhouse? Do you know what that is? Yes, no? Okay, so it's down by Occoquan and you can go visit it. And so it used to be a jail, like a big medium security prison, like from like the late 1800s. And about 20 years ago, they stopped it being a jail and they turned it into an artist's colony. And I was walking by it and I was wondering, and they were building, they were part of the property is houses, like brand new houses. And so I was walking by the property one day and I was like, what if you moved into one of those brand new houses and you were suddenly being haunted by a ghost that was connected to the prison? So that's what the story that is on sub right now is about a girl who ends up with a little boy ghost, and his mom was actually in the prison and he died trying to go visit her. And so trying to figure out how she gets him back with his mom. And so it's a lot about Occoquan and real places that are here in Northern Virginia, which is fun. There's a lot of history. It was fun writing about a ghost. So that's kind of the brand I'm going down, like weird history in Virginia. So with a paranormal twist. So Heidi, you asked who my agent is right now. Ashley Blake is my agent. She's with the Reese Agency. She's also an author, so you should read her books too. She's awesome.
All right, and we are right at 2:00. So Christina, is there a place where they can connect with you on social media if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a website, it's christinajune.com, and then all the socials, everything, all the major platforms, I am at by Christina June. So like a book is by Christina June. Instagram is probably where you can find me the most. There's lots of pictures of my dog, lots of pictures of food. That's pretty much it right now. Sometimes stacks of books. But yeah, that's the best one. But you can email me at bychristinajune@gmail. I would love to hear from you. And if anybody wants to get my books from the library and let me know what you think, I would love to hear it. Or if you want to buy your own copy, highly recommend One More Page. There are probably signed copies there. And if not, if you want to email me, I would be happy to send anybody who buys the book some bookmarks and book plates to put in with a signature, all that stuff. So just let me know.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you so much, Christina, for sharing with us.
Of course. Thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful summer and go read lots of books, and do all the summer reading programs.
Yes, please do. And if you're inspired to tell your own fairy tale, please make a short film and submit it to Teen Film Festival, because that's the theme this year. Yes.
I will watch them. I want to see them. So go make movies.
Yes, very good. All right, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye, guys. Thanks.